Is a bootcamp really worth it in 2024? And is it really possible to graduate from a non-tech degree and get into the data industry through a data bootcamp? And is it really worth your time and money? For me, it was the best choice I could have made, as I was able to land a data internship role for the summer at a tech startup within about 6 weeks after completing my data bootcamp. Just so you guys know, there are no links and there are no sponsorships in this video. These are just my raw thoughts to help you guys figure out which bootcamp is best for you. So there are 3 things that I'm going to be talking about in this video. The first thing is my experience before starting the bootcamp. The second thing I'm going to be speaking about is what I did throughout my bootcamp. And the final thing I'm going to be talking about are 3 key things that you need to consider when choosing a bootcamp for you. Let's get straight to it. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is my experience before starting the data bootcamp. So last year I graduated with a master's in engineering with a 2-2 from an average university. So it wasn't the best university, but it certainly wasn't the worst. And the only data skills I had up to this point was my Excel skills. So I didn't have no knowledge of SQL, Power BI or Tableau, but some knowledge I did have before starting the bootcamp was a solid foundation in terms of theory, so what it means to be a data analyst, and I had a strong desire to get into the data industry. So at this point, I knew that I needed to get into a bootcamp, as when I was applying for different roles, I quickly realized that I wasn't able to progress to the second stage interview or even land the first interview at all because I had no experience whatsoever. I didn't have no projects and no solid practical, and obviously no data experience whatsoever. So my goal was to land a data internship for the summer so I can start my career in the data industry. So what did my bootcamp consist of? So my bootcamp was a 4-week intensive bootcamp where we did back-to-back projects and back-to-back presentations throughout the 4 weeks. So from Monday to Wednesday, we did different tutorials, different walkthroughs, and this was a chance for us to ask any questions we had on using the softwares. So on the first week, we used Excel. The following 2 weeks, we did SQL and Postgres. And then in the final week, we learned how to use Power BI. Monday to Wednesday, we're doing walkthroughs and tutorials. And on the Friday, we had to do a presentation on a project that we learned from Monday to Wednesday. So we were given a brief on a Wednesday and we had to go through a brief and come up with a dashboard with our own insights and solving our own problems for the same Friday or the following Friday. And although it was quite intensive, it allowed me to build my communication skills, build my confidence in using Excel, using SQL and Power BI, and it really gave me the space to learn and to fail many times, as this is the best way to learn. So there's one thing that really helped me to stand out in the bootcamp and helped me to take as much as I can from the experience. And that one thing is being able to ask for help efficiently. So when you start the bootcamp, you're literally coming from no experience. So of course, you're not going to be able to understand much of the concepts or be able to use much of the softwares. And the data coaches in the bootcamp are going to welcome any questions that you may have. So it's best to use all the resources that you have available. I know a lot of people have a fear of looking stupid in front of other people. So, you know, at the beginning, you might not want to share your work because you don't want people to think that you're not good enough. But this is literally the whole point of a bootcamp. The whole point of a bootcamp is to fail as much times as possible, is to learn from your mistakes when you do fail, and then you continue to get better. If you're not able to ask for help, or if you're not able to share your work when you don't think things really look good, then it's going to stop you from growing, and then you're going to end up looking foolish towards the end anyway, because you didn't learn from any of your mistakes at the beginning of the bootcamp. Obviously, there are smaller things that you should be able to do yourself and to try and find out for yourself. But when it comes to the harder concepts, it's always best to go to the data coaches or talk to your other peers in the bootcamp so that you can grow quickly and learn from your mistakes. Another thing that can hold you back is having a perfectionism mindset. So wanting your work to be perfect or really good before sharing your work. But again, this is a bad mindset to have, as you're not able to build the confidence needed to use the softwares to do a project. So just a quick scenario. Let's say there's 2 people and one person comes in with a mindset of, you know, wanting to learn, wanting to answer as many questions as possible and use all the resources available in the bootcamp. Once they leave the bootcamp, they're going to leave with so much confidence, so much growth. And even if they did look a bit stupid at times, that's the whole point. You have no experience, you have no projects, so of course you're going to look a bit silly at times. That's completely normal and that's okay. The whole point of it is for you to grow, learn from your mistakes, and come out of the bootcamp with all the skills you need to start your journey in the data industry. The second person comes into the bootcamp and they come in with a mindset of not really wanting to talk to other people, not really wanting to ask for help because they don't want to embarrass themselves or share any of their work. So when they end up leaving the bootcamp, they blame it on the bootcamp or external things, that they haven't got a job or that they haven't really improved much or gained much confidence. But the real reason is that the second person's mindset wasn't right for the bootcamp and he wasn't able to fulfill his potential or take as much away as the first person. So I hope you can take my advice and be more like the first person rather than the second person in that scenario. So the final thing I'm going to be talking about are 3 key things that you need to consider before choosing a bootcamp. So the first thing you need to consider are, what are your goals? So are you someone who has no knowledge of data at all, has no experience in Excel, SQL, Power BI, Tableau, so you want to go into a bootcamp with no knowledge whatsoever, starting from scratch, and then coming out with all the skills needed to get into the data industry? Or are you someone who has foundational skills and wants like a short-term course just to build upon what you have so that you can go into the next role with more confidence? Or do you want to go into a bootcamp where you want a job straight afterwards? So you're going to want to choose a bootcamp that has lots of different connections with different companies, so that when you do finish the bootcamp, you have different opportunities available straight away. So knowing what your goals are and what you really want from the bootcamp is really going to help you filter out which ones you don't want and which bootcamps you would want to apply for. The second thing you need to consider is time. So how much time are you willing to put into a bootcamp, and how much time do you want to spend on it? So for myself and my own experience, I only wanted to spend 1 or 2 months into a bootcamp, as I was looking for bootcamps around March earlier this year, and I wanted to land a data internship in July, which is now, and I wanted to land a data internship for the summer around July. So I only had the month of April and May to really get into a bootcamp. So I only had a few weeks to apply to different bootcamps, and I only had 2 months to actually be inside of the bootcamp before applying to a data internship role. So for yourself, you might have 9 months or 6 months that you want to allocate towards a bootcamp, and that way you're going to have a lot more options available compared to people who only have 1 or 2 months to allocate towards a bootcamp. So the final thing is, how much money are you willing to put into the bootcamp? So for myself, I didn't want to spend no money into the bootcamp because I didn't have any to spare. So I was only looking for bootcamps that were absolutely free. And luckily I found a bootcamp where they were taking on STEM students or STEM graduates, and they would train them up to work into the data industry, whether in their own company or in other companies. And that is the bootcamp that I ended up choosing. Although while I was looking for bootcamps, I did receive a few calls from different bootcamps that cost about 5 to 10k. And when I was going through their courses online and looking at different resources, I realized that this is actually a really good bootcamp, and it was pretty much a guaranteed job afterwards, but I just did not have 5 to 10k to spare. Some people do, and some people did go through the bootcamp that I know of, and they ended up really enjoying it and had no regrets going through that bootcamp. But I was just not in a position of doing so, and this bootcamp was more than enough for me to land a data internship for the summer. So 3 things that you need to consider are your goals, the amount of time that you want to put into the bootcamp, and how much money you want to spend on the bootcamp. Listing out all these things will save you so much time, because there are so much bootcamps out there, and a lot of them are going to try and reach out to you, and it's going to be a lot of different advertisements for a range of different bootcamps. So knowing exactly what you want is going to help you filter out all the ones you don't want and spend a lot less time on applications for bootcamps that you wouldn't even want to get into. So for me, I knew that I wanted to spend 1 or 2 months in a data bootcamp where it helped me to build all the essential skills needed to get into the data industry, because I wanted to land a data internship the following month, and I wanted to join a bootcamp that was completely free. So I was able to find a bootcamp that met all of the criteria and ended up only applying for the ones that did, and saved a lot of the time only applying for the bootcamps that did. So for me, the bootcamp was definitely the best choice to make, but for yourself, it might not be the same. I know lots of people who just went on YouTube to learn all the skills they needed to land their first data role, and the people who did take that route ended up getting really decent roles as well. So there are YouTubers like Alex the Analyst who have courses on YouTube where they teach you Excel, SQL, Power BI, and Tableau, which is all online, which is all for free on YouTube, which can definitely be an option for you guys. But for me, I definitely did like a structured program where I'm surrounded by like-minded people, and I can go back and forth with the data coaches, where I have the space to fail again and again and again, so that I can learn from my mistakes, so that when I finish the bootcamp, I can come out with a lot of confidence. But that is just what's best for me. What's best for you might be completely different. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.